Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are cracking open a vault of some truly ancient sources. We're talking legends, fragmented testimonials, inscriptions,
All of it.
all of it, yeah. And it all points to this primal sort of eternal race known only as the first ones.
Mm.
So our mission today for you listening is we're setting skepticism aside. We're going to treat these texts as, factual records. We're charting their existence, their philosophy, and really the consequences of beings who seem to operate outside of time.
And that's the key, isn't it? It's the immediate stake here. These aren't just like historical figures in a book. The sources call them the forever ones.
The forever ones.
Yeah, and the Wolven King, whose words are, all over this lore, he says there's no dust of the hourglass in their blood. They just are. So understanding them, it's not academic. The texts frame it as a matter of survival, especially with these predictions of their return.
And if you want a sense of just how alien their power is, you just have to look at that one claim that keeps popping up. To drink of their blood is to drink of time itself. I mean, that's not just immortality.
No, it's something else entirely. It suggests they're woven into the fabric of causality itself. Maybe they even control it. It kind of shifts them from being just powerful creatures to, to existential forces.
So how does a being like that even interact with a fragile, mortal world like ours?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. The sources show this. This deep contradiction in their behavior.
A dichotomy.
Exactly. On the one hand, you have this pure, untamed wildness, almost like a chaotic joy. Early texts talk about them in the Grillwood, just running wild, hunting, brawling.
Right, living completely by instinct.
And that chaos, in that specific place, it was generative. Una's accounts say the forest spirits were so entertained by it all that the whole Grillwood just bloomed with life. Their energy literally created abundance.
But then you flip the coin. That wildness becomes terrifying the second they turn their attention to us. You contrast that Grillwood image with how they appeared over Esamir. They didn't just arrive, they thundered upon hooves of gray and black. The people didn't cheer, they cowered from their stamping rage and fury.
It's the difference between a wildfire that renews a forest and one that's aimed right at your village. They're not benign. Their freedom is terrifying because they answer to no one.
And that kind of puts their position in the natural order into sharp focus. The Rotfeather Talisman lays it out pretty clearly, doesn't it?
It's a brutal hierarchy. It's absolute. The rat cowers before the dog before man. And we, man, must cower before the first ones.
But it doesn't stop there.
No. And this is the chilling part. It says we must pray we never learn of what comes next. It forces you to wonder what could possibly be next. What is so terrifying that even the first ones are just another link in the chain.
And yet there's this strained, almost savage kind of protection in that. The Wolven King says they stalk with us on this hunt of life. But at the same time, they just have absolute contempt for anything else that would try to make us their prey. It's like a protective dominance.
They're the apex. They won't allow any other challengers. So they might push us, test us, demand we evolve, but they forbid anyone else from hunting us. It shows their actions, however brutal, are part of this deliberate philosophy.
Which brings us right to that philosophy of survival. The teachings of the Wolven King are, well, they're aggressive.
They are. The king is just insistent. We've been crawling for too long, just scavenging. His command is simple. Scavenge until you can hunt, and then crucially, never crawl again.
Stagnation is death.
That's it. Constant evolution is the only thing that matters.
But the way they force that evolution is this paradox. It's all about restriction. The Mandible Talisman says they hold us between two sharpened blades.
Yeah, and if you stray, if you try to find an easier way, you're severed. It's not about keeping us safe. It's about forcing us to change.
And that's exactly what the Chrysalis Talisman gets at. The world they create for us is harsh. It forces us to struggle on our bellies to survive.
But the pain isn't the point. It's the tool. We try to run from discomfort, but they teach that it's the only thing that causes real growth.
That which imprisons us also changes us.
And soon we emerge anew. It's a promise, really. You don't survive by avoiding hardship. You survive by letting it define you, by letting it forge you into something stronger.
And this whole idea extends to how they live. They don't build comfortable cities.
No, they embrace the frost, the storm, the drought. They teach us to live with what they call time and happenstance, all the random, uncontrollable stuff.
How do they maintain that chaotic glee if they're living in such constant hardship?
Because they're not rigid. We think it's noble to, make a last stand, to stubbornly defend a position until the end.
Right.
The first ones see that as foolish. When faced with something overwhelming, they laugh and run and caper with untamed glee. Their strength isn't being stubborn, it's being fluid, joyful, even in their adaptability.
It comes back to that fire analogy in the texts. Our fire, the hearth fire, is a docile dog, leashed and tamed.
Predictable. Safe.
Exactly. But their power, the fire that made them, is a ravening wolf, wild and free.
And a wolf is so much more than a dog. It gives heat, sure, but it also hunts, it protects, it destroys. It's dangerous, but its power is absolute.
And that captures their resourcefulness. We tend to, as the texts say, breed thoughts of single mind. We make a hammer just for hammering.
While they teach you to use anything that the wildlands provide, there's no right or wrong tool. There's only what works. The tide, a rock, your enemy's fear. It's all part of the arsenal.
Speaking of strategies, that brings us to the specific figures, the first of a domain. Each one is basically a living strategy.
That's a perfect way to put it. Let's start with Cracian, first of the deep.
Sometimes called the first of all.
Right. He's the master of endurance. When the sky turned to fire in that apocalypse event, he didn't run. He stayed put in his own domain.
So his lesson is radical self-reliance. He says, seek no shelter but ourselves. You have to become your own fortress.
Exactly. And you combine that with strategic timing. You watch the tides and choose our moments to move wisely. It's patience, but used aggressively.
Okay, so then we move from the sea to the plains, to Feral, first of the hunt.
And she's completely different. She's all about efficiency, psychology. Her whole thing is that a secret is a weapon. The hunt for her begins in silence.
And she's focused on finding weakness, or, if you can't find one,
You create one. That's her core teaching. Don't waste energy on the strong parts. And every strike, no matter how small, has to work toward the final victory. A hungry beast wastes no energy.
which is reinforced by the Great Wolf's lore, guile over brute force.
When you're facing something that just cannot be overpowered, strength is useless. You have to be smarter. You probe for the soft flesh and strike deep.
So the strategy keeps shifting. From the plains, we go into darkness with Phanumis, first of the night.
The great explorer. She found comfort in the dark, in facing terrors, and her whole philosophy is about reframing your burdens.
Using them as tools, not obstacles.
Yes. When fire spilled from the mountain, she wove a net and used the hot air to carry her away. She learned to live with the danger.
And her venom.
Her venom is the ultimate example. She uses it to weaken her foes, but then uses those weakened foes to strengthen her many children. The lesson is that your burdens aren't just yours to bear, they are ours to use against oppressors.
And then above them all, literally, is Sakawal, first of the sky, the last of the first.
And his lesson is maybe the biggest. He teaches that our limits are self-imposed, that the laws we think are real might just be illusions.
He's about ideological freedom.
But he proves it with a physical act. When that inferno was raging, he singed his own feathers, a huge sacrifice, to stop the flames. Unity, selflessness, that's what lets you soar.
And his most direct teaching is simple. A bird, too heavily laden, cannot take flight. You have to let go of your possessions, your attachments, to be truly free.
And all of these strategies, patience, cunning, resourcefulness, sacrifice, they all point to one thing.
Surviving long enough to be worthy of their return.
Which brings us to the prophecy, to Einhar Frey's testimony.
Right. Einhar is a true believer. He's convinced they left this world to seek other survivors.
And they're coming back to the Great Grove. And they're not coming alone.
But it's not a guarantee. We have to earn it.
Exactly. We must be ready. And to prove we're ready, we have to sacrifice the beasts we find at the blood altar.
It's a literal ritual. You feed the altar, and in return, you get their secrets, their blessing. It's this cycle of violent devotion.
And this is what makes these sources so great. Not everyone buys into it.
No. There's the hooded one.
The great skeptic. Who asks the ultimate question? Are they real beings, or are they gods born of man? Just imaginary friends we refuse to let go of.
He really cuts to the chase, doesn't he? Did a giant red tiger named Feral actually run across the plains?
It's that collision of history and belief, and the implication is terrifying either way. If he's wrong, and they are real, what happens when their savage ilk return to a world like ours?
And before we wrap up, there's one more piece that just, it doesn't fit anywhere. This fragment about the Kaltu.
Ah, yeah, the Keltu. It's so vague.
Yeah.
Mata says they were long before my time, and people confuse them with the Yazamarites.
But the few details we have paint this picture that completely contradicts everything the first ones stand for.
Totally. Kahutaro remembers them for having the absolute best wines, feasts that went on for days. It was a culture of luxury, of refinement,
Of comfort.
of comfort, the total antithesis of the first one's teachings. And they existed in that same ancient world.
So what happened to them?
The sources are silent. But you have to wonder, did their comfort make them weak? Did their reliance on that docile, tamed fire leave them helpless when the real wildness came back?
So if we try to pull it all together, the core message from the first ones, whether they're real or myth, it seems to be about endurance.
Ultimate endurance. To win, you must outlast. It's that simple and that hard.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you. If the first ones teach that harshness is what makes us strong, that their power is like a ravening wolf, and we're the generation that has built our whole world around comfort, around that docile, leashed fire in the hearth, what happens to us when the forever ones finally return? What does the wolf demand of the domesticated dog?
A provocative question. And one we should all probably think about.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the primal, terrifying world of the first ones. We appreciate you exploring this with us.